On a crisp September day in 1944, thousands of Allied paratroopers descended from the skies over the Netherlands, aiming to deliver a swift and decisive blow that would end World War II by Christmas. The daring plan, known as Operation Market Garden, was meant to punch through the heart of Nazi-occupied Europe, capturing key bridges and paving the way for a rapid advance into Germany. But what was intended to be a decisive strike became a tragic saga of missteps, miscalculations, and unexpected resistance. But why did such a meticulously planned and bold operation fall short? In today's video, we dive into the various factors that led to the failure of Operation Market Garden. By mid-1944, the Allies had made significant progress in Europe following the successful D-Day landings in June. With the liberation of Paris in August and a series of victories pushing German forces back, there was a growing optimism among Allied leaders that the Wehrmacht had been defeated and that the Third Reich was on the brink of collapse. They felt it was merely a matter of time before victory was achieved. Recognizing the Germans' overextension following the Battle of Falaise, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the supreme commander of Allied forces, favored a wide-ranging strategy that aimed to advance his forces on all fronts, intending to overwhelm the enemy with sheer numbers. However, this strategy quickly faced substantial challenges. The Allies found their logistics and supply lines unable to meet the demands of supporting all their forces in France, while simultaneously pushing forward. Consequently, by late August 1944, the armies were halted. In these desperate circumstances, Field Marshal Montgomery saw an opportunity. He believed he had a plan that could deliver a decisive blow to the Germans, provided he received priority for logistics. Montgomery envisioned bypassing the Siegfried Line, a defensive fortification system built by Germany along its western border, by advancing through Holland, across the Rhine, and capturing Germany's industrial core, the Ruhr. He was convinced that this plan could lead to an Allied victory by Christmas. Faced with serious logistical challenges and aware that fighting on the Siegfried Line would be exhausting, Eisenhower approved Montgomery's strategy, leading to the initiation of Operation Market Garden. Operation Market Garden was a two-part operation involving both airborne and ground forces. Market referred to the airborne component, which involved three Allied airborne divisions: the British 1st Airborne Division, the US 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, and the Polish 1st Parachute Brigade, dropping behind enemy lines to capture key bridges over the River Maas, Waal, and Lower Rhine. Garden, on the other hand, was the ground assault led by the British 30 Corps, which was to advance rapidly up a narrow corridor, linking up with the airborne troops and pushing forward to the Ruhr, the industrial heartland of Germany. The primary objective was to secure a series of bridges from Eindhoven to Arnhem, creating a route for the Allies to bypass the formidable Siegfried Line and advance into northern Germany. A successful operation would cut off German forces in the Netherlands and open a direct path to Berlin, potentially ending the war by Christmas 1944. The plan was bold, and its success hinged on speed, surprise, and the precise coordination of airborne and ground forces. On September 17, 1944, Operation Market Garden commenced. It began with the largest airborne assault in history, with over 34,000 paratroopers and glider-borne troops landing behind enemy lines. The initial phase saw some success. The US 101st Airborne Division captured the bridge at Eindhoven, and the US 82nd Airborne Division secured the bridge at Nijmegen after a fierce battle. These early victories gave hope that the operation was on track to achieve its ambitious goals. The British 1st Airborne Division, tasked with capturing the northernmost bridge at Arnhem, faced the toughest challenge. Although they initially seized part of the Arnhem Bridge, they quickly found themselves isolated and surrounded by German forces, far stronger than anticipated. This set the stage for the unraveling of Operation Market Garden. Despite the initial successes, several critical factors led to the ultimate failure of Operation Market Garden. One of the most significant miscalculations of the operation was the underestimation of German strength and preparedness. Allied intelligence had incorrectly assessed the situation in the Arnhem area, believing the German forces were in disarray and incapable of mounting a strong defense. However, the 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions were resting and refitting in the Arnhem area. In overall command of the German forces was Feldmarschall Walter Model, often referred to as the Führer's fireman due to his strategic expertise and defensive capabilities. Leading the 2nd SS Panzer Corps was Wilhelm Bittrich, who had previously made a name for himself in campaigns such as Normandy. The SS Panzer Corps comprised approximately 7,000 soldiers from the SS Panzer divisions. Despite having experienced commanders, the division operated at only about 30% strength. The troops had been preparing for potential enemy airstrikes for several months, which diminished the element of surprise for the Allied forces. Nonetheless, the airborne drop still maintained an unexpected factor. This became evident when Model frantically vacated his headquarters, concerned about capture. An unforeseen event for Montgomery occurred when an Allied glider, carrying the plans for Operation Market Garden, crashed near General Kurt Student's headquarters, providing the Germans with insight into some Allied maneuvers. The presence of these panzer divisions caught the British 1st Airborne Division by surprise. Lacking heavy weapons and anti-tank capabilities, the airborne troops found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered. Their position became increasingly precarious as German reinforcements poured into the area, cutting off supply lines and isolating the paratroopers. Operation Market Garden was a complex operation that required precise coordination between airborne and ground forces. The plan called for the airborne troops to capture and hold the bridges until relieved by the advancing British 30 Corps. However, several logistical issues hampered the operation from the start. The narrow road leading from the Belgian border to Arnhem, known as Hell's Highway, became a major bottleneck. The single road was vulnerable to German counterattacks, and its narrowness created significant delays for the advancing 30 Corps. German forces, using a combination of artillery, armored units, and infantry, managed to cut the road at several points, halting the advance and delaying the link-up with airborne troops. Additionally, weather conditions posed a significant challenge. Poor visibility and adverse weather delayed the arrival of reinforcements and supplies, which were critical for the airborne divisions holding the bridges. The 1st Airborne Division in particular suffered from a lack of supplies, including ammunition, medical supplies, and food, as they held out against increasing German pressure. Effective communication is crucial in any military operation, and the failure of communication during Operation Market Garden had severe consequences. The airborne divisions, particularly the British 1st in Arnhem, faced significant difficulties in maintaining radio contact with the advancing ground forces and their own command. The failure of radio sets meant that the isolated paratroopers in Arnhem could not adequately communicate their desperate situation. These communication breakdowns led to confusion and a lack of coordinated action. The British 30 Corps, unaware of the exact conditions at Arnhem, could not prioritize their advance to relieve the besieged paratroopers. The lack of timely intelligence and coordination contributed to the inability to reinforce and support the airborne troops. The ambitious nature of Operation Market Garden stretched Allied forces thin. The operation required a significant concentration of airborne troops and armored divisions, which limited the availability of reserves. As the operation progressed, it became clear that the Allies had overextended themselves. The narrow corridor that the Allies aimed to secure was surrounded by German forces. As 30 Corps advanced, they were constantly engaged in fighting off German counterattacks along the length of Hell's Highway. This constant state of engagement slowed the advance and exhausted the troops, reducing their effectiveness. The planners of Operation Market Garden underestimated the challenges posed by the Dutch terrain and the ability of German forces to react swiftly. The flat open terrain of the Netherlands offered little cover for the advancing Allies, making them vulnerable to German artillery and armored attack. The flooded areas and numerous waterways further complicated the movement of troops and equipment. German commanders, recognizing the strategic importance of the bridges, responded quickly and effectively. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting up defensive positions, and exploited the vulnerabilities of the Allied forces. The rapid German response and effective use of the terrain contributed to the failure of the operation. By 25th of September 1944, it was clear that Operation Market Garden had failed to achieve its objectives. The final phase of the operation involved the unexpected evacuation of the last remaining British and Polish paratroopers, who found themselves in precarious situations on the northern bank of the Rhine. The British 1st Airborne Division at Arnhem was virtually destroyed, with only about 2,000 of the original 10,000 troops managing to escape. The bridges over the lower Rhine remained in German hands, and the hoped-for quick advance into Germany was thwarted. The failure of Operation Market Garden had several significant consequences. The Allied advance into Germany was delayed, giving the Germans time to regroup and strengthen their defenses. This development left the Allied forces with no alternative but to undertake a direct and costly offensive against the German border fortifications. The prolonged fighting led to a harsh winter for both the Allied troops and Dutch civilians, who suffered from severe food shortages during the Hunger Winter of 1944-45. Operation Market Garden remains one of the most ambitious and controversial operations of World War II. It was a bold gamble that, if successful, could have shortened the war and saved countless lives. However, the combination of strategic miscalculations, logistical challenges, communications failures, and underestimating enemy resistance led to this failure. The operation served as a reminder of the complexities of war and the thin line between victory and defeat. Thank you for watching. We hope you found this video informative. If you enjoyed learning about today's topic, make sure to check out our video, What Did German Generals Think of the Allied Generals? It's a fascinating look into the minds and military careers of some of World War II's most skilled commanders. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more World War II content. And we'll see you in the next one.